We're told the deal for a lasting peace in Afghanistan is agreed in principle. A deal? Maybe. A lasting peace? That's not necessarily the same thing. Parts of the Taliban are talking with the US about the withdrawal of its and NATO's forces and are poised to accept a gradual pullout. They're in a position of strength. They hold, or at least control, more territory than at any time since the US invasion in 2001, and they know President Trump wants out. America's Special Representative, Zalmay Khalilzad, says he's negotiating with the Taliban. But he's not. The US talks are with the Mullah Baradar faction, which itself is a faction of the Quetta Shura Taliban. Other, stronger Taliban groups do not answer to Mullah Baradar, who was released from a Pakistani prison last year. Nor does the Afghan ISIS affiliate, ISKP, nor does Al-Qaeda. Since the death of Mullah Omar, the Taliban has a fragmented leadership. So, if the US demands are met by one group, they may not be upheld by the rest, including the Taliban's powerful Haqqani network, which has strong ties with Al-Qaeda. The Americans want a Taliban guarantee it will not allow foreign armed groups in Afghanistan, in case they use it as a base to again launch attacks outside the country. They fear safe spaces in which a new generation of terrorists from around the world could be trained. The Americans also want the Taliban to open talks with the Kabul government and a permanent ceasefire. The issue of women's rights appears to have fallen off the table, and there's a notable lack of women with influence over these negotiations. There's about 14,000 US troops there, plus around 17,000 from NATO-related countries, and the latter have non-combat roles. The proposed deal sees 5,000 US troops leaving by January. These talks have been conducted amid the backdrop of continuing violence with numerous Taliban attacks. Well, Mr. Khalilzad says, yep, agreement in principle. He hopes it's achieved before the Afghan presidential election on September 28th. It's possible other Taliban groups could buy in, although there's few signs of that. In any case, there's some way to go. The withdrawal timeline has not been agreed. The Taliban still refuses to talk with what it regards as a puppet government. What the Americans seem to want is a dignified withdrawal in order to argue that their longest war has not ended in defeat and they've not abandoned Afghanistan. An agreement, even with just a part of the Taliban, could allow that argument to be made. Whether it's believed is another matter.